Let's talk about the vaccines that have been rolled out. So last week, of course, Pfizer and BioNTech's vaccine had their first full week of doses being administered, and probably to be expected, but there is no shortage of drama. So as of Sunday afternoon, yesterday, almost half a million people had received a dose of the vaccine in the United States. That's according to the CDC. As of Friday night, there were about 5 incidents that potentially involved allergic reactions and are under investigation, according to the FDA. Are these allergic reactions concerning, or are they par for the course with any vaccine?
So there's sort of two reactions that we could think about. One is sort of an allergic reaction, and that would be a reaction to the components of the vaccine. And we definitely need to figure those out. The two main components of both of the vaccines, the Moderna's and Pfizer's, is there's an RNA, right? That's the mRNA part. And everybody has RNA in their body, so probably the patients aren't reacting to the RNA. And then that's surrounded by sort of like a fat molecule, a set of fat molecules. It's very similar to membranes of a cell, and that's actually how the RNA gets into the cell. That fat molecule sort of fuses with the cell and then releases the RNA into the cell. So we could be getting reactions to that, but it seems unlikely. Maybe it's a preservative in the vaccine that people are reacting to. So that's concerning, but it's going to be a small number of people, and it's probably not we have to figure out what it is, but it's probably not, we got 20, 40, 50,000 people were tested in the clinical trials. So it's a small number, even if it is. And then the other issue is that, people are going to have immune reactions. And so that's not reacting to the components of the vaccine, but reacting to the coronavirus protein that's produced by the mRNA in the patient's cells. That's definitely less concerning in my view, because it means the vaccine's working, right? If you're reacting to the protein, it's more likely to happen on the second dose than it is on the first dose, because you've been primed to react to it. But you could react to it on the first dose, especially if you've already developed antibodies to that particular sequence of proteins, because maybe you're exposed to a different coronavirus that had that sequence. And so that it's not a huge issue, but obviously if people are overreacting, then that's a problem. And maybe they're going to need some drugs to help their immune system tolerate the vaccine.
Yeah, so there was actually just news this morning that the National Institutes of Health are devising a study to identify what part of the Pfizer vaccine is probably responsible for this anaphylactic reaction. So they are trying to get an answer to what we're seeing here, and hopefully they can get their arms around that, although it will be kind of a complicated study because they are going to be looking for people who have a history of allergic reactions. So, they're on top of it. They definitely are not ignoring this problem. And again, it should definitely not be a reason to not get the vaccine unless you do have a history. They've put out some guidance about, if you do have a history of allergic reactions related to vaccines, you probably should not get this. But other than that, it should not be a cause to avoid it. So, some other interesting things that have gone on with the Pfizer vaccine rollout is that Pfizer and the federal government were going back and forth last week because the rollout was slower than expected in terms of volume of doses. Are we just now seeing the start of distribution and communication challenges with trying to get the US vaccinated? What is going on here?
Yeah, the states aren't getting their allotment as expected, but we're not really sure whether the issue is that they were expecting the federal government had told them that they were expecting too much, or if there was some issue with Pfizer or whatever. The federal government took some responsibility. I heard there seemed to be some issue with the federal government had assumed after you manufacture a vaccine, it gets tested to make sure it's really what they think they made. And then they thought that they'd be able to ship immediately after that. But apparently it takes 2 days to sort of process the paperwork, and then Pfizer could ship it out. So that seems to be some of the issue. But there were some other issues. There were some other reports that said Pfizer had vaccine ready to be distributed without instructions. So that's, that seems to be not that clearly isn't the 2 day issue. And then, I mean, I don't know. It's maybe probably not a big surprise. They didn't have a whole lot of time to plan this, and they're trying to roll it out as quickly as possible. I'm sure these things happen all the time with launches, and we just don't hear about them because they're not major news events.
Yeah, there's a lot of attention on every small step of this rollout. Another headline was that it turns out there are more doses in each vial of the Pfizer vaccine than originally thought. Can you explain what's going on there?
Yeah, so the vaccine comes as a concentrated solution that's frozen and then you thaw it out. And then you add, then the doctor or the nurse adds additional solution to that to get it to the right concentration. And ultimately, it's supposed to be 5 doses in each vial. Obviously, you want a little bit extra. As they're pulling it out, there may be some loss, or if you have to get an air bubble out of the needle, that you have to sort of lose some there. But even with those factors, it seems like each vial had enough for 6+ doses. So the doctors were sort of wondering whether they should use the 6th dose, because whoever you vaccinate now, you also have to have enough vaccine in 21 or 28 days to give them the 2nd dose. The FDA says it's fine to use the second, any extra dose, but don't combine between vials.